To have passion in life is everything.
What's your Everest?
Oh,
Is it
yeah.
that 200-inch buck?
They just look so impressive when they're wide.
Especially running away.
Welcome to this week's episode of Eastmans Elevated.
It's like a think tank for outdoor activity.
Sounds exactly like my hunting. Just always thinking about it, always trying to evolve it and make it better.
Here's your host, Brian Barney.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Got a brand new Eastmans Elevated for you. So on today's podcast, I have on my buddy Cain Rinehart. So it's Cain's first time on the podcast. I've known Cain for the last handful of years. He's located in Bozeman. I work with him in the construction industry, but he's just a diehard bow hunter. He's just willed himself into being consistently successful on trophy critters. He's worked tirelessly at his shooting and at his hunting skill set. And so he's just the perfect guest for the podcast. So I ran into him the other day and then hit him up and jumped on the podcast, and we had this great conversation. So I really enjoyed it. I think you guys will enjoy it too. So we'll get right into it. I just want to thank a couple sponsors. So I want to thank Zamberlan Boots. I'm so pumped on my Zamberlans. I'm so pumped on the relationship that I have with Zamberlans and the podcast. I really believe they're building some of the best shoes and boots out there. Boots and shoes comes down to personal preference, and you guys know that I like a burly mountain shoe for a lot of my hunts versus a boot. And again, it's just personal preference. Like, I think, pound on my foot is like 10 pounds on my back, and so I get less fatigued using these shoes. And then these shoes are built with waterproof, with a great Vibram sole, and they're built a little bit burlier than a running shoe, so you can get multiple seasons out of them. So I'm really in love with these Zamberlan shoes. So I say the name wrong every time, but it's the only way I remember. It's Salute, or Sloth, I think is the shoe, but it's a Zamberlan Sloth. Man, these things are under 2 pounds for a set. So under 2 pounds as far as weight, waterproof. They're built for the mountains. I have both my good hunting buddies, Dan Heverin and Dylan Ness, are using this shoe and love it. And I saw one of my workers the other day had this pair of shoes, and so I asked him how he liked them, and he loved them as well. So they're really taking over. That Sloth is my favorite one. I've got a new set of them I'm pumped on. I also used a couple other of their sets this year, like the Free Blast. And that was an amazing shoe. I used that nearly all year long, and it did flawless for me. And that Free Blast will also come in a low cut height as well. So if you like a little bit more ankle support, you can still get the low weight, the low cut height, and you can get that in those Free Blasts. So they have a bunch of different offerings there. If I'm using their boots, like, they have a bunch of different offerings there. I love, like, they've got a GTX, a Hike Light GTX. It's an amazing boot as well, that I love that. They're under 3 pounds per set. So if you're in the market for some new boots, make sure to check them out. Zamberlan does not cut any corners as far as craftsmanship, materials. They really stand behind their boots or shoes. I've never had a pair of boots stay waterproof longer than a pair of Zamberlan. So I'm super pumped on the company, their offerings. If you guys are in the market in this off season, make sure to go check them out at zamberlan.com. I also want to thank Cryptek. Cryptek is doing an amazing job with technical mountaineering gear. I'm so pumped. I have the best system put together for early, mid, and late season with their gear offerings. I really like their cuts of, like, their insulated puffball jackets. They go lower and tend to cover my butt and keep me warmer there. They have a pair of puffy pants that are zip-offs that are just amazing when it gets really cold. And their early season gear, the Sonoran hoodie, the Sonoran pant, they breathe really well. They've got a hood on it so I can hide from the sun. Don't get sunburnt neck or face or anything like that. So from early season to late season, they're just fitting the bill. And that Obscura transitional camo is one of the best camos I've ever seen in a bunch of different habitats. And my buddies have concurred on the same thing, where they say they glass me up out there, or glass up my cameraman out there with me, and can hardly pick me out in the sage and the timber, wherever it is. That camo pattern blends in so well. It's called their Obscura Transitional. It's just a great camo pattern, but just great clothing, great offerings. I'm so pumped to be partnered with Cryptek, as I just have an amazing system built for hunting all different types of seasons. And, these clothing are our first line of defense against inclemental weather. And so, like, when you have a good system built, you can just be comfortable, stay out there longer, and hunt harder and really focus on the hunt. And that's what I've been doing with this Cryptek the last year. So if you guys are in the market, make sure to check them out. They're one of the top brands out there, just producing great gear with a great fit. Love all types of their pants, like pretty much everything they offer. I've really fallen in love with, and I'm using full time. So check them out over at Cryptek. I also want to thank Black Ovis. Black Ovis is doing a great job. They're an internet retail store. They have absolutely everything you need. They carry all the top brands, including Cryptek, including Zamberlan. They also have their own name brand, which is pretty high quality. I looked at one of their sleeping bags. I looked at their puffy pants. They have great offerings through their own name brand. They have an Arrow ID site. They have a point system on there where 1 point equals $1. You can save 10% on your first order by putting in the code Elevated10. Gosh, I always they do such a great job offering that 10% off. So if you have an order you're putting together for this off season, you can just save a pile of money there. And those guys are really knowledgeable too. They have a bunch of hunters that work for them, so you can call up. They can answer any questions that you have, and they're really trying to find you the best gear for your needs or for your wants for upcoming hunts. So yeah, give those guys a shout and give them a chance. They've got some great gear. Also, check out Camo Fire. So the best deals, they have 80 new hunting deals that come up every 12 hours. Again, my buddies like this app and use it quite a bit and pick up some good deals on there. So they just have a good name brand gear that comes up at a huge discount that they're able to sell. And if you watch these 80 new hunting deals that come up every 24 hours, like, you get to get this, look for the gear that you need and pick it up at a high discount. So it's a great app. Make sure to check it out if you're in the market for any new gear. So you can find them at Camo Fire. With that, over at Eastman's, we're working away. We've got the magazines, Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal, Eastman's Hunting Journal. We're getting into application season, so make sure to check out our Tag Hub. We've got a huge resource of a bunch of different information that I've used for years to help me find these units that fit my preferences and helps me find opportunities throughout the West. So you can check that out at Tag Hub. We've also have some groupings of these items, like if you wanted to get the mule deer course in Tag Hub or Tag Hub in the magazines. We've got some deals there that you guys can look out for. But yeah, check out Tag Hub, check out the mule deer course, put that together. It's just a great resource and a great deal. I think it's like $100 or something like that, and they have over 100 videos. It's absolutely everything I know about hunting mule deer. So I put it together with Dan Picard. He worked really hard on it, and then Guy Eastman is in there as well. Really proud of what we put out there. So you guys can check that out if you're planning on hunting any muleys the next year. You'll surely cut your learning curve by years in a couple weeks' time, or however long it takes you to work your way through the videos of it. So check that out at the mule deer course. We've also got Eastman's Beyond the Grid. You can find us on YouTube there. And yeah, everything we do is over there at Eastman's, so you can check that out on the website. And with that, let's get into this podcast. So it's Cain Rinehart. I'm your host, Brian Barney, Eastman's Elevated. Here we go.
Yeah, because you're still in your vacation rental, right?
Yep, in the vacation rental, yeah. It's going to work out good, though.
Nice. Yeah, it's frustrating probably being in between houses, but I'm excited about your new house, man. That's awesome.
Oh, dude, it's coming out so nice. Yeah, it's so fortunate to be able to build that thing in, like, this current economy or whatever. So, yeah, I'm stoked, and some of our work is seasonal, so we're snowed out of one of our houses, which kind of like checks one off my list. So I think I'll be able to get into my house even quicker, which will be killer.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'll tell you what, with the way the world is, especially in this area, like being able to be in a brand new place and, build something that's for you and your family, man, that's awesome. Really happy for you guys.
Oh, it's super cool. Yeah, for sure. It's in a good location too. Like, I love this little community of Ennis, and then oh, we're in a nice little development, but it's just got that broadside view of the Madisons, like looking at, this mountain range that means so much to me, like over the last 20 years or 25 years that I've explored every inch of, and then get to stare at it with like this, they call it shining mountains, because it gets like this afternoon light and illuminates that mountain range. But yeah, it's super cool view. So yeah, man, stoked.
Yeah, drinking a cup of coffee to that view is never going to get old.
No, you'll have to come down and shoot. We'll get the indoor set up. It'll be nice.
Oh, dude, absolutely. I would love that. I love that area too. So yeah, any excuse to get out that way, I'm all about it.
Yeah, right on. Well, dude, I was just I left Kenyon Noble the other day. And you're just the perfect guest for the podcast. I just didn't even think about it until after I left. But, dude, thanks so much for jumping on, taking the time.
Oh, man, it's an absolute pleasure. I've idolized you probably more than any bow hunter for many, many years now. So being on here, man, it's an absolute honor. I'm excited, especially since like every time I feel like we see each other, it's always in passing and I'm at work, and it's finally, I'm so excited to like get to sit down and finally like dive into talking what we love, man.
Yeah, well, it's a mini podcast. Every time I run into you, like I always like talking hunting, and anytime I'm in that Kenyon store, I always try to swing in the back and say hi to you. And then, dude, yeah, you do such a good job, like in sales too. Like, man, it's so nice to have a contact there that I can just call when I need something. So yeah, I'm just gonna lean on you more and more for sure. You do a stand-up job in there at Kenyon.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I just got recognized the other night for 10 years there. It's a great company, man. I love it. And next to hunting, it's my absolute, it's my dedication. And yeah, it's basically hunting in that place, and I'm as happy as can be with all of it. So
yeah, that's killer. Well, I'm equally impressed by you and how you've just willed yourself into being a consistent bow hunter. Like, man, it's no easy feat. It's It takes so much dedication and so much work at your craft, and then it's not just one skill set, it's multiple skill sets. And man, you've willed yourself into an incredible shot where you're extremely lethal with that bow and arrow, and then you've willed yourself into this great hunter, that has paid his dues in Montana and learned some different spots, and then hunts really hard during September. So I'm just super impressed by your consistent success year after year, man. And another heck of a season this year.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. It was an absolutely blessed season once again. The last few years especially have just been incredible. And I'll tell you what, man, the prep for next year has already begun, and that's something I focus pretty heavily on, man. Is I basically the way I look at it is I do this year round. I mean, once the season closes, it's time to start, it's time to start prepping for next year. And that formula has just worked so well, man. And there's, some major things I focus on throughout the year to make myself better. And I swear I just have these amazing seasons, and I'm like, man, like, what am I going to do, next year? Like, what's the goal? And somehow I've just been up in the ante each year, and it's been incredible, buddy. I've been super, super fortunate, and I've been putting more work and time in than ever. But I love every minute of it. I love everything to do with archery hunting, and especially archery. I love archery equipment. I love the science of arrow flight, and I've been working so much on bows the last few years, mine as well as so many other guys, and it has made me such a better hunter to be so dialed into my equipment, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you can see like the proof's in the pudding, like, of those animals that you've been able to consistently harvest, and it is living this bow hunting lifestyle 365. Like, there is no off switch. And you're right, every good season I have, after the end of the season, it's not that I don't appreciate the adventures or I'm proud of the accomplishment, but it all starts over. Like, 2023, we have to start at the beginning again. So, man, you're spot on for that. And it's like, it's not something that comes immediately or comes right away either, like that success or bow hunting these animals. It is like just working your way through it, and you put in the hard work and improve your skills, and then it seems like success is even a bit delayed. So like you talked about your success, like how good it's been the last few seasons or this season, like it's just coming to fruition for you. And I can't wait to see what you produce in like the next 10 years, but it does just take a lot of work, doesn't it, before it starts becoming a reality.
Yeah, it does, man. And people, I'm sure, and they ask you all the time, like kind of what's the formula, for success these days in the woods. And I'll tell you what, it's nothing but solid dedication to the whole sport. But there's more to it than just the season, and I'm in the gym on a very strict workout schedule year round, like making sure my fitness is in check.
Mind and body, right?
Yeah. Oh man, it's so important. And I was actually, I got done listening to that podcast with Preston Ward that you did, and that was just so, it just related so much to my life. I think we forget as Western mountain hunters sometimes, like, this is unforgiving country, and to be able to navigate it right and do these pack outs with these heavy packs and stuff. I mean, you really got to have your body in check. And that has given me a huge edge over the last few years, just solid dedication to, my physical fitness for sure. I've been working with a personal trainer, Wes Jameson, out of Prime Physio over in Bozeman. And he's just, he knows my schedule. He knows my lifestyle. And he's just been able to give me a program that's worked out so well for me. So I can just be in the best shape possible when September comes.
Dude, that's incredible. Good for you. Like, what would you say your program has evolved to for the mountains? Because you're training for this extreme mountain terrain, and it does, like, gosh, the body is such a major piece to the puzzle. And then what it does too is it strengthens the mind and gives you discipline, all in the same package of just working out and getting your body right. So what's your program consist of now? How does it change leading up to season? How many days a week? Like, what are you doing to prepare your body for the mountains?
Yeah, so it's mostly weight training with some cardio and endurance thrown in there, and I still keep working out during hunting season. We basically go on a 5-day-a-week schedule. I'm a big weekend warrior, as you can imagine, with my work schedule. So I use my 5 days during the week to just focus on weight training. Big focus on the back, big focus on the legs, big focus on the hips. Making sure that I'm really good and ready for those heavy packs, and we're getting the body ready for injury prevention. That's huge. And then as soon as hunting season's over, I get back into a 6, maybe even 7 day a week thing. I try not to miss a beat with it. I found that, I think the people, and this is people that don't even hunt, that, work out and they kind of lose their edge after a while. And it's just from, losing dedication. Like if you stick to it, it is amazing how like you will physically start seeing those results. And yeah, we've just been focusing on, head to toe fitness. It's my back is definitely something that I try to keep as prime as possible, because I definitely think it's the most, fragile part of the human body, especially for hunters,
Yeah, it's definitely the keystone for sure. You need your back for everything. Yeah, if your back hurts, it's hard to do anything right. Man, good for you. Like, prioritizing it. And I think that's a good way to look at it, is to like, to stay ready. It's like, I ramp up my training a bit before hunting season, but I'm ready all year long. Like I've got spring hunts that I do, and I've got, summer trainings or summer runs and things. But I think it's like so nice when you don't have to go up and down from getting into shape to letting yourself go out of shape to back in. And I would say right now, like, doing this house, like I'm not in the best running shape of my life, but still getting in, I'm still maintaining. And I think like I think I just think it's so great when you look at fitness that way. When you stay ready, you're always ready. You're in this physical shape all the time, and you don't let it go. And it's same thing for me for hunting season. Like I continue to run through hunting season, even though, it wanes a little bit. It's like I just don't want to lose that fitness or that cardio or that endurance. And then the weight training is so important, like building this muscle and then teaching that muscle endurance. It is just a huge asset in the mountains, and so like building that muscle on is so important. And so, man, I'm with you that the back, total body fitness, and then that endurance. Like I think I sit a little bit more in the endurance camp with the trail running and things, but it's still muscle building. It's still strengthening the muscles, and like you said, injury prevention is the main thing. You can go so hard when you feel 100%. It's, man, when you only have 75% or 70% because you have a back injury or a joint injury, that can just be a season killer. And so, it is about longevity, and it's about strength, and then being able to attack these mountains. And I'm the same way. And I think, our bodies adapt to the stress at which we put on it. And so when you're stressing that body 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week, like you build up these muscles around your joints. You build up these muscles around your back. Like I actually think the tendons strengthen. Like I think everything tightens up. So, here I've been going so hard for so many years, carrying a backpack and uneven terrain and so many miles, and I've got zero joint pain. Like I've got injury prevention where I can keep pushing my hardest once season gets here, and I know my body's capable of it. Like you mentioned pack outs. Like, it's one thing to go kill an animal, but then to get an elk out of the mountains, is going to put this stress on your body. And if you're not ready for it, you can definitely get an injury doing it, or it'll take you out for a couple weeks or whatever the case, man. That's, it's so crucial. Good on you.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's I've seen some people kind of, get up in. So I'm still a licensed hunting guide in Montana. I used to do some work for a local outfitter, and you get some East Coast guys out here and start hiking them into the mountains, and you definitely begin to see the frustration on their face, because they're not quite ready for it. And man, then when it comes down to the pack out, then they're really burnt out. And when it comes to pack outs, man, it's one of the reasons, like, I'll always volunteer myself to my friends whenever they got something in the mountains. And not only because I want to be there for them and help them, but man, like, a chance to pack out is a chance to condition my body. So I'm always willing to throw an empty pack on, head into the woods and help somebody get something out of a hole. Cause not only because it's good for me, but because I'd want the same help if I'm in that situation. So yeah, it's just more exercising, in my opinion, if I can get on more pack outs during the year.
Man, that's huge. When you have buddies show up to give up a day of their hunting to help you pack out something, it just means the world, and you just want to return that favor. So I'm the same way, where I just try to offer myself up and help pack out and help those guys out. And like you say, it's another chance for fitness and to be in shape in the mountains. And so it's a beautiful thing. And there's like a couple sayings that come to mind. I heard one the other day that I should have wrote down, but fatigue makes cowards of us all. And then like I heard one the other day where it's like it's something to have to do with like a lot of people quit in the uncomfortable or under stress. God, I'll have to look back at it and see what it was and write it down. It's just this great saying that hit home to me. But basically, it's like you just don't make as good of decisions when you're fatigued, when you're worn out. And when you work on your physical fitness, there's no buck or bull too far. There's nowhere you won't go. You build this dedication. And so during season, it's not a tough choice to be up at 5 a.m. and get in your boots on and get into the mountains. It just becomes easier, easier. Like when you strengthen your mind and teach yourself that discipline, that all carries over into season. And so therefore you hunt harder, you give more, and you just don't have this breaking point. And so that saying that I heard the other day was like, man, they're right. When you're really beat up or you're really working hard, that's like the easiest place to quit or to renegotiate your goals with yourself and say, oh, man, there's probably nothing up here. Or, you can make these excuses about going in. But when you get yourself in peak physical condition, it's like, man, this is what I've worked for all year long. Like, you can just keep in this positive headspace of pushing and grinding hard to like earn a trophy animal. So it's like, it's not only this physical fitness is just for physical, it also like helps shape the mind as well and makes you tougher during season.
Yeah, and man, and if you switch that completely around, it's the same thing. In the gym, when you're, in being in the gym is just like anything else. When you're on, you're on, and some days you're just not on, and a workout is really like, it's frustrating, and but as you're pushing through those reps, and for me, like my whole drive and pushing through those reps is like, I will be happy come September that I pushed through this and that I stayed dedicated, and it always ends up working out. Because you flip that on its head when you're in the gym, it's going to be the same exact thing. It's so easy to quit. It's so easy to just get frustrated with yourself. And I re-explore my why, is what I like to call it. Like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? And it's because it's to be better at what I love to do, which is ultimately bow hunting.
Man, I like that. I like that perspective, Cain. You're right. That's how I look at it too. It's like an opportunity. Like, you want to build mental toughness. It's to continue to go when you don't feel like going, or continue to push. And like, you're right. You go through that, dang near on every exercise, every rep you do, there's a quitting point there where you can get one more, you can get two more, or, you can work your way through a workout. And I think, there's this misconception, like I love to run and I love fitness and I love to work out. I say those things. I don't always feel like it. Like, even us guys that are driven, I still have to make myself get out on the trails. Like, I'm better nowadays, but I used to sit in my truck on a rainy or snowy day at the trailhead for 15 minutes before I get out and I actually go, just sitting there pondering like, dude, gosh, I just don't feel like it, but I can't really leave at this point. I'm already here. I'm committed. Like, have this conversation with myself. But people think that fitness comes easy for guys like you and I, and it does come easy because we make it a routine and we make it a habit, and that habit then, like, once you form that habit, you get that discipline and make yourself do it. But there's this misconception that I always feel like running or I always feel like working out. I have to make myself do it the same as another guy does, and it's always the toughest thing to start, but once you have a routine, it's easy to keep to it. But I find myself, like, I have to come up with the same motivation everybody else does to get a workout or to get this fitness level that I enjoy in the mountains. But it's not easy. It's a mental battle, even for guys like me and you. I suspect you have the same thing, Cain. Have to make yourself do it. Yeah.
I got to talk myself into it all the time, and not every day comes easy. And I think that's what everybody who has a hard time committing to gyms needs to realize. It's like, it doesn't come easy for any of us. There are days when you don't feel like it mentally, you don't feel like it physically, and I, when I think about this, I think about when I killed my bull this year, how emotional of a moment it was for me when I was standing there looking down at him. It all played back in my head, the whole year of being dedicated to the gym and my equipment and all that. But I mean, that's where I stood there and realized, like, man, it was super emotional. I was like, yeah, this is what that's for, to get this ultimate, just amazing feeling. Like, every day that I didn't feel like doing it and every day I felt like quitting, like, this is what made it all worth it, because this is just, the most amazing feeling on the planet for me. And I find myself constantly just trying to talk myself out of things. And it's the same thing, like you said, when you get to a trailhead or something and it's snowing and it's miserable and it's like, oh man, like, like this. But I'm sure in your experience as a vine, I think those are some of the days that end up being some of the best ones you have, ironically.
Oh man, absolutely. Congratulations. I wanna dive deeper into archery, as I know you've gone deep down the rabbit hole. But yeah, dude, tell me about that elk hunt. It is like the top of the mountain, or the top of our Everest, what we work hard for all year long. And so those feelings when we harvest our target animal, when it comes together and we find that magic, like man, the sense of accomplishment is indescribable almost. Like, it is amazing. And how good to like harvest an animal like that, and to be able to sit there and reflect on it, and reflect upon all the hard work you put in, and not only this year but multiple years, to build your skill set to a place to be able to harvest a public land bull with your bow and arrow, and a great one at that. Like, man, that's the top of the mountain. It just doesn't get any better. And once you find that feeling, I feel like you can use that for motivation to climb the next Everest, to do it again, to put that work in. Like, you've seen it now, and you've seen it happen, and you believe in this mission. You believe in this, that this working out year round, that this working on the bow, like, you can see it right there in front of you in this bull elk that you harvested. Dude, tell me about that elk.
Yeah, this was such a crazy year, man. And that went down on opening weekend too, which was pretty surreal at the time. But I dove into this season head first, like always. I got out in August and arrowed a good antelope, which is just always probably the best prep you can do here in Montana to be ready for the big game season, is to chase antelope with a bow. And so,
man, you're good on those antelope too. You seem to come up with a good one year after year. Man, I love that season. It's such a great season to start off, and not as a warm up. Like, it does get you ready for season, but it's just so dang fun too.
It is, man. I'll tell you what, like, of course, like, us Western hunters are always talking about the pinnacle, which is, elk hunting with a bow, but there's not one animal I chase with my bow that doesn't give me the craziest, heart pounding out of my chest feeling,
Me too. Yep.
And antelope takes it to a new level, man. And if there's any place you're going to like really test your skills, it's spot and stock antelope hunting. How mentally tough you got to be to make that happen. So,
yeah, you're spot on.
I almost take more pride in a consistent antelope kill than I do an elk kill.
Oh, I love it.
Just, it's crazy. Yeah. So, got that done. And then,
how many stalks did it take you?
Oh man, this year was a lot. I shot him after 1 week. The season was open for a week when I killed him. I want to say it was between like right around 35 or 40 stalks, before I killed this one. My wife was with me, and we each had the tag this year, because as you know, like, that tag's not going to be, it's not 100% to draw anymore. So we were both out getting after it. And yeah, I probably did 35 to 40 before I killed that buck. And oh man, it was, it was hot. I think I shot him on about 101 degree day or something like that. And, but that's just another part of the challenge I love, man. I don't know what it is about that heat, but it's a totally different world. And
me too. I love it too. Yeah, those hot hunts they're mentally tough, man. They're just a grind. Same thing. Yeah. It's getting out of your truck day in, day out.
Yeah, for sure. And as you know, here in Montana, that heat stuck, it's stuck around for opening weekend of big game. And, I remember it was funny because I remember that weekend was approaching, and one of my coworkers who doesn't even hunt was like, "So what's the goal this year?" And I sat there and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, that's a good question. Like, what is the goal? Because I was going to be heading into my normal elk spot as always for the weekend. And I'm like, well, I'd like to maybe kill a bigger bull than last year, like that'd be a good goal. And, headed in on opening weekend, man. And it was hot. It was just, and I remember leading up to that weekend, my other bow hunting buddies like, man, you're going to go out this weekend? I'm like, oh yeah. Because I tell everybody the same thing. I said, hunting's just like the lottery, man. Like, you're not going to win if you don't play. If the season's open and, and I can be out there and I don't have to be at work that day, like, I'm going to be hunting. And when I, something I've definitely changed up the last few years is when I leave my truck in the dark, I come back to it in the dark. Staying out all day and being persistent has definitely helped out. And that weekend came, it was hot, and I got into the elk woods, and where I hunt, I've kind of discovered some early season tactics, because I actually love early season for elk hunting. I call them elk bedrooms, these thick timbered areas that, where they can get in and stay cool for the day. And because I think a lot of people just get so wrapped up in this morning hunt and this evening hunt for elk. And there's so many other ways to kill elk. And I got into this nice timbered bedroom and got in there and just and it was far in. I was a ways in alone, and and I had heard some bugles that morning, and this was the Sunday of opening weekend, and I got in there and I just kind of posted up in this spot and took some refuge and some shade, and I'll never forget, the time was going by, and then in the afternoon, starting to hear some bugles light up, and it was early afternoon. I mean, it was only about 3 o'clock, or coming early evening, let's call it anyway. And I'll never forget, these elk started lighting up around me. And then all of a sudden this bugle rang out 300 yards behind me. And, as an elk hunter, when you hear a herd bull versus, younger raghorns, it's the craziest sound ever, man. Like, that bugle rang out behind me. It was one of those deep, just growls, angry, and it was nuts. And the first thing that went through my mind was, okay, got to slow down here, because I knew this bull was big. I heard it in him, and he kind of posted up in there. I put the calls away because I'm running all the scenarios in my head from everything I've learned over the years. This is a big bull, and he's not, why is he going to be interested in my call if he has a huge harem with him? And, he sounds like he's already the king of whatever he's got going on. And so I started creeping through this timber behind me, and I mean slow, which is something that is so important as a bow hunter, man. It's just slowing down. And I crept through this timber. And it was thick in there. The shooting lanes, the furthest shooting lane you could probably get was 50 yards if the scenario was just right. And I crept up on this herd, just slow, no noise, no calling. Start to see some hair through the trees. And then here he is, and he's circling around this herd in the timber, and he's actually kind of heading my direction. And I stood still. I'm going to let him do the work. He's on alert. My wind is just right. And I kind of let the situation play out, and as a 100% like spot and stock hunt. And this bull made his way to a tree in front of me at about 46 yards. And I think I mentioned this to you the other day. I just got a show at that point. This bull started tearing this tree up. His lips are curled back. And I finally get this good look at his rack. And I remember the season before, I had talked to a couple of hunters that were in a couple drainages over from me. And in passing, they had mentioned they'd seen this bull with a drop tine. And he starts raking this tree up, and here's this drop tine on the left side of his rack. And when you're staring at him, and I remember, man, my heart just started pounding. It's like, holy cow, like that's him, because this is just, it's a rare genetic in elk, as you know. And he starts raking that tree, and I've got my arrow knocked, and I'm just not letting myself talk myself into anything crazy. It's just wait it out, wait out the situation. And this bull, he moves over to start raking the other side of this tree, and he gives me just this nice little slightly quartering to shot. And I shoot a hinge release like you. So, when I drew back, I went through my process that I've been working on for so many years and just settled that pin. And I actually had to use my knowledge of archery flight on this one, because he had this like 1-inch branch going right across his vitals, but the branch was halfway between me and him. So I studied that path, and I'm like, okay, with my trajectory, if I aim right through the branch, should sail right over that branch and hit him good. And so I settled that pin, right behind that shoulder, with the pin actually on that branch, and pulled through a beautiful shot. And the arrow arced perfectly right over that limb and came down and just smoked him. It was I'll never forget that moment. And then his herd kind of moved off, and it was a huge herd that was hiding in there. And he was definitely the king of that herd. And he went about 40 yards and was dead in about 10 seconds.
Dude, it's so beautiful. Like, it just doesn't get any better in bow hunting. And those scenarios, they you have to work hard for them, but a lot of bow hunting is like being clutch in these opportunities you get. Like, you're only going to get so many opportunities a year, and you're only going to get so many opportunities of a bull of that caliber. And so, like, so much of what you said there, like, resonated with me, like the hunting throughout the day. And these elk do get in this dark timber, and I am, I'm at fault too, where I am a morning and night guy. And I love hunting that thick timber, and I'm really working on my still hunting skills, like my ability to move slow, like you said, to pick them up. But I almost have to know where they're at in the middle of the day. So I know where they bed on these benches and on these ridge lines, and I'm definitely hunting late into the morning or even into noon, and then I'm starting early in the afternoon. And if those things sound off and I can echolocate them, then I feel comfortable moving in, which is like what it sounds like your scenario was. Like, you put yourself in the right bedding timber, and then it's all about moving slow. Like, you have to see them before they see you. You have to keep the element of surprise, and it's so difficult to move really slow, but that's what it takes. It's like finding these hard trails, these elk trails through the downfall timber, through this thick stuff, and then just being able to creep your way through. And after doing it so many years, you just really pay attention to the wind and the current and how that's moving as you're moving through the timber. And then it's about using their bugles and being able to echolocate and kind of know when to slow down or when you're coming into them. And then when you talk about moving slow, like, it's just a snail's pace. Like, you have to, it's take a step or take a couple steps, and then I still use my binos. Even though I'm in the thick trees, I'm glassing 100, 200 yards trying to pick out that hair of that cow like you did, It's like you have to see them first, and then once you see them first, I feel a little bit more comfortable, like moving into position or knowing when I can move or when I can't. So many things you did right there. And it seems like these new age elk, or these, there's so many guys that are going hard that are good elk hunters nowadays, that these elk they love to refuge in that deep, dark timber, in that thick stuff. And if you can go in and hunt it effectively, man, you can get into some crazy good elk.
Oh yeah, 100%, man. The new age elk, which you and Andrew Whitney hit on the head really well a few weeks back. These elk they're adapting and they're evolving to the habits of hunters. They're constantly. I feel every year things are getting a little tougher and they're getting better at avoiding us. And and honestly too, the whole calling thing. I think that calling scenarios are going to get more fragile as time goes on, because these elk are keying in really well on, what a real elk sounds like versus a human being. And so we got to keep sharpening our skills, man. And we have to keep working around that. I find, as you can imagine, there's a lot of elk these days that, they hear a bugle and they take off in the other direction, which is so crazy, But, elk are beginning to associate certain things they're seeing out there with danger. And so they're, constantly evolving and adapting, man, and learning how we're trying to outsmart them. So that's just why I'm forced to get better every year. It's just, it gets more challenging as time goes on. And the whole being slow thing, man, it's so, I've heard you talk about this before. I mean, it is so easy to rush a situation because the kill is in your mind before the process has even happened. And I think, you're already excited about this kill that you really have to, you're really a whole step away from killing and, making the right move on this elk. And, you've got to talk to yourself a lot, and you've got to understand, like, the result, it will happen if I play this out correctly, rather than blowing up this herd and then they're out of my spot, and I would rather creep in as slow as I could and they move away and it gets too dark, rather than I rush the situation and blow them out of there and never have the opportunity again.
Oh, you're so right. Yeah, if you can keep them in your area and just play this tentatively this tentative game where you keep the element of surprise no matter what. And you're right, it's better to move too slow, the elk move away from you, you don't get a chance, but they're still in that area, still being elk, and you got a chance at them the next morning, instead of being super aggressive and blowing them out of country because you moved too fast and cows caught your movement. And then you have to start all over. And so that's so crucial. And like the big bull that I chased this year, I chased him for 3 different hunts in there, and then I had my buddy chased him, and I never blew that bull out of there. Like, I just kept playing the game, trying to get a shot. And there was a night where, I had one of the most epic nights where I heard 300 bugles, and another herd bull challenged this bull, and they bugled back and forth, and they ran at each other and chased each other off, and chasing cows and screaming their heads off. It was amazing, and it played out for like 2 hours that evening of the most insane elk hunting. And to end that day and not blow up that bull and not blow up that scenario or spook any of those elk and to be in them all night, man, that was a gift in itself. Like, that was amazing. And then that bull stayed in there and able to keep chasing him. And just like you said, like, letting things play out, like being in range, like being at 46 or whatever you said from that bull, scraping his horns on that tree. Like, you also have to wait for the right scenario. The bull I ended up killing was down below me the same, like 40, 50 yards, feeding and bugling back to his cows. And I spent 5 minutes in range of this bull, and I know how tough bulls are to kill. And he just didn't quite give me the right angle, didn't give me the right shot. And then just how it can happen in bow hunting, that elk turned around and started walking dead away from me. Like, his cows started chirping at him, and all of a sudden he let out this spine-tingling bugle at 45 yards or whatever it was. And I've got my cameraman right behind me, and I'm letting all this play out. And it was 5 minutes of being in range, and then that bull starts to walk off and back to his cows. And there's like some scenarios where that I don't get the shot, and I just continue playing the game, and I would have killed an elk this year, but he started walking away from me, and then had no idea I was there. And I did kill my elk by calling this year, as I made one cow call to kind of stop him, and just a mouth call, just a like that. And he heard it, and walking dead away from me, he spun to look back and gave me a good quartering away shot. And I actually, a lot of times, I like to draw back and then cow call to stop him, but that's when I know the exact range. And with this bull walking away from me, I wasn't sure where he was going to stop, and I was in like behind some trees where I was concealed, so I actually had to cow call with my rangefinder up to my eye and bow in front of me, and cow call, and he starts to turn, and I get a range, and then I've got to get behind my bow, and set my pin, and then slowly come to full draw. And luckily he was able to put up with the little bit of movement in the trees and get an evening last light, and I was able to get away with it and put a perfect arrow in him. But man, I think just what you said, like being patient. Like, I think with elk, it's really waiting for the right angle. And I hear so many horror stories of guys talking about a giant bull that they hit and got away, and it really is like a focusing in and putting a perfect arrow in that bull. If you don't put a perfect shot on him, you don't get him. And so you really have to wait for the right angle, the right shot on that bull, and then put that perfect arrow in him, just like you did. Like, how many years too did it take you to where you were able to transition your really good shooting and your archery knowledge and all this work that you put in? How long did it take you to transition that to shooting at animals? Like, that is no easy feat, to keep your calm, to work your hinge release, to execute a beautiful arrow like you did on that bull, man. That is not easy to do. How long did it take you to harness that? And do you have it now on every animal, or is it something you have to work tirelessly on every hunt?
We're always target panic is something we're always all going to deal with for our whole entire life. And it took many years, man, to get into a process that works correctly for me, because everything we do in archery is all preference. And years back when I switched to dedicated to a hinge release, I remember in my early 20s, like, I would always practice with my hinge, and then when hunting season came, I'd put it away, and I finally made a huge dedication to it. And that thing has just made me really you have to go through the whole process of a shot. There's no more of this, quick drawback and just wait till that pin floats across the vitals and, just punch that trigger. That's not an option anymore, and that's what it is, man. Like I've gave myself the discipline to where I'm using a setup that I have to slow down and I have to be able to make the right shot. And in those scenarios too, you've got a little more, I just had more control over the situation. I'm not letting myself get carried away, and translating your practicing to killing animals it's a huge transition. I'm sure. Yeah, it's like you said, we hear horror stories, and I think a lot of the times that's coming from guys that kind of step into the backyard and shoot a block at 20 yards in August and, call it good to go, but in the thing that I've always preached to people is like, if, when we hunt these animals with a bow, it's our responsibility to make an ethical, lethal kill in whatever way we have to do that. It's just, I owe it to an animal, especially a bull of that caliber. I owe it to him to make that good shot and to really slow down and think about what I'm doing. Like you and I both danced on the same thing this year. You've got that 5 minutes of that bull he's in range, and you could easily draw back and take a whack, but you've got to start thinking to yourself and realize, like, I owe it to this animal to wait for the right shot. And it sounds like you and I both did that this year, because the whole time that bull was raking that tree up, I did have that frontal shot, but with how much of an adrenaline rush I had and what I had known about this bull and how important it was to make this happen right, I waited for the opportunity and waited for him to turn, because if you don't put a perfect arrow on these elk, it is just insane what they can do, and I've seen, you've got to strive for tighter tolerances when hunting elk. Your shooting ability needs to be more than accurate arrows. It needs to be about, proper form and a good pull through, because, as anybody that's hunted out here enough has seen some of the things that happen when you put an arrow in a bull where you either rush the shot or you didn't exactly know the range, or, the scenario just wasn't right. He was moving, and that's never worth it to me. It is never worth it to take those shots where, well, hopefully this works out. That's never worth it to me, especially, on a mature animal that it's your dream to kill an animal of this caliber. I'd much rather he got away and I get another shot next time. And there's so much more to just shooting an accurate bow. It's about, having discipline and being able to check yourself in those situations, and just slow down,
Man, it's so fun to listen to you talk about it. So much of it resonates with me as well, as it is being a next level hunter. Is when you have that discipline to wait on the right shot, when you have that discipline to work through your shot process. And, a lot of that is just all the arrows and all the practice we do. I know you shoot leagues and you shoot 3D, you shoot around buddies, and there's this pressure to make those shots. And in those moments, you have a decision to make. It's whether you're going to try to float your pin and say now, or whether you're going to execute correctly. And once you start to commit to that executing correctly, and once you start to transition that on animals, and then, yeah, you're right, this bow hunting, it means so much to me, but the resource can't handle me going out and wounding 2 elk and killing 1. The resource, I will ruin the resource, I will ruin the mountain ranges that I hunt. And like you say, it's an absolute heartbreaker to put an arrow in an animal and lose it. Ruins your whole entire season. It ruins my whole season. It ruins my whole year. I can't stop thinking about it, and I keep replaying the situation and thinking back, God, I should have done this different, or I should have waited for a better shot. And hopefully people can learn from us talking about it, where they do make those right decisions. But a lot of times us humans learn the hard way and have to have some heartache to be able to make those choices. But to me, like this bow hunting, this craft, it means so much to me that I want to do it the right way. Like you say, we owe it to the animals to make a clean and lethal shot and not leave them wounded, wandering the mountain range, destined for a long, slow death, or a death by predators or whatever the case, because we've injured them or knocked them down a notch. It's like we owe them to make this clean, ethical kill. And I'm in it to kill this animal, and I just know taking risky shots, taking bad angles, taking moving shots, the same things that you described, like I know those are a recipe for disaster. And so, I am really looking for placing that perfect arrow in an elk, and so I'm going to be patient. And you're right, your tolerances get tighter. A lot of people say, well, elk are a big target, their vitals are 12 inches, and so you've got more room for error. And that's the wrong way to think about it. The right way to think
100%.
about it is these elk are the toughest animals on planet Earth. And unless you place an absolute perfect arrow in them, in the lungs, heart, or liver, they're not going to die. And so, you have to wait for this perfect angle. And same way I waited on my moose. Like, he was fighting another bull right in front of me. They were sparring, and I had that quartering toward shot where, sure, could I put it in there behind the front shoulder? I bet you I could. I bet you I could angle it in there. But the tolerances are just too tight. There's too much room for error, to where there's too many things that can go wrong on that shot angle. And so, I just waited. And eventually that bull turned broadside and gave me a good shot at his lungs and able to put a perfect arrow in him, and he was alive for maybe 45 seconds. In fact, he walked 25 yards and turned the other way broadside, and I put an arrow the other way through him, so he just didn't make it that far because of my patience. Now, if I would have walked up there, and the moment I see, this angle, and I try to tuck it into this, it's like trying to force an arrow into this tight window, man, bad things can happen. And so you're so right. This commitment, and it almost has to be more important to you to execute a good shot than to kill that animal. Like, you have to walk around thinking about this shot execution and not letting your mind override it. Like, you walk around going, no matter what, no matter how big the bull is, no matter what shot I get, I am going to execute my shot. And when you start doing that, animals start dying consistently.
Mm-hmm. And so good on you, man, for your moose hunt, because in that scenario too, you're on a hunt of a life. You're on a hunt there that you're not going to get to redo next year, and that's your moose hunt is such a perfect example of, think about what all led to this and how long you waited for this. And, I remember you talking about how many bulls that you passed and saw before this all came together, and why on earth would you ever take the risk, of screwing up that scenario when you've put all that work in and have waited so long, and my scenario with my bull is like, when you talk about how you shot your moose, I feel you the exact same way, just sitting there and talking to yourself about what it's going to mean, how much more meaningful this is going to be to wait and make the perfect kill. And how much more rewarding that is to make a perfect shot, regardless. Let's, put the size of the trophy away. I get so much satisfaction out of a clean kill, no matter the size of the animal. A clean, lethal kill is just that it brings me to a good place. And it reminds me to always just keep my mind in that right place. I think, and everybody's different. People get out there that have, it's been weeks, since they've seen an animal, or it's been a couple of years and they've eaten tag soup and they're frustrated, and those things kind of come into play with those decisions too. Why guys want to rush things, they're just so eager to get it done, and the thing you got to learn as a bow hunter is, 90% of what you're going to do in bow hunting is just going to be close calls. It's going to be close calls. One of your skills is going to be able to walk away from that close call if the shot wasn't right. And just good on you, man, for that moose. And, and you made a hell of a poke on him. And, but it wasn't just a shot you just, flung out there. It was a shot that you calculated, you waited, and you executed. And that's what this needs to be about in every shooting scenario.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, and likewise to you. Your execution is beautiful. It it accentuates or adds to the experience, right? It's such a major part of it. Like if I kill an animal and I didn't make a good shot on it, it's almost like I'm happy for the harvest, happy that I was able to finish the job, but it almost taints the experience a little bit. Like I can't stop thinking about that shot. But when you make a perfect shot and you execute a perfect shot on those animals, man, it adds to the entire experience. Like you say, no matter how big the animal is, it makes it better, and you feel complete. You feel like you did your job. And so that's like such a major piece of it, or major piece of the enjoyment or the thrill of it. And you're right. I love what you said, like 90% of bow hunting is close calls. That's so right. Even from us good bow hunters, like we get so close so many times. And even like the bull elk I killed, I think that was my 4th or 5th stalk on elk, and I was close on the other stalks. I didn't blow them up. I played things perfect and played the wind. They just didn't come together. Like, these animals are crafty. They don't always give you a shot. Sometimes they're on the other side of the cows, and sometimes they move off, and then sometimes you can be hunting with a perfect wind for 2 hours, and all of a sudden you get in a little bold basin and it swirls and it blows up the scenario. And so you're right, like a lot of bow hunting is these close calls, and so you learn not to get frustrated by close calls. You learn to like soak it in. Like that is the fun of bow hunting. There's so much hiking and looking and map research and driving, and there's so much that goes into hunting that isn't hunting. But when you finally get there and you find an animal and you get a play on them, you get a stalk, you give yourself a chance, like, man, that is the thrill of bow hunting. And so I walk away from some of these epic encounters of just being close calls. I didn't get the shot, but just going, man, that was amazing. What I got to see tonight through my 2 eyes was amazing, and I get to continue to hunt for them. And so I think it is like just flipping the script to like the way you think about things, your perspective on it. And you're right. If you're not okay, like failure in bow hunting is a prerequisite, and you're going to fail on stalks, you're going to fail on shots, and it's about picking yourself back up and getting back out there, and eventually it just comes together. But yeah, there's like a beauty in this 90% of close calls. Like, well, that's the fun of bow hunting. And really, the longer it takes and the more of these stalks you get, the more it's shaping our hunting skills, the better it's making us. Like, I think part of the reason I'm such a good bow hunter is because I fail a lot. Like a lot of times during bear season, I'm hunting 30, 40 days, or a lot of days during elk season. It takes me, 15, 20 days. Now, you made good on your encounter the first weekend. You were prepared for, getting into these elk. And, like we talked about earlier, like a lot of bow hunting is being clutch on the opportunities you get, but it just doesn't always come together. And the more days you can stack on to hunt elk for 20 days, like who's hunting elk for 20 days a year? And so that experience is such a great teacher and has turned me into the elk hunter I am. It's made me better at spotting and stalking these elk just because I get so many encounters and so many close calls, so many chances that eventually it'll come together. But yeah, it's part of the beauty of being a bow hunter is that we fail a lot.
Yeah, 100%, man. I and people see the success of you and and other guys like you that have grown such a following. And which I think the biggest message you have for all of them is like, don't worry, I've had to fail many times to make this all come together. I remember, man, in 2021, a couple weeks before I arrowed my bull, I had an encounter with a bull that was of a totally different caliber. I would say he was pushing that 360 level, and he was so worked up in the rut, and he was so worked up into his cows, and I snuck in to 65 yards on him. But this bull, he wouldn't hold still. He was just breathing hard and just chasing these cows around. The shot wasn't right, and there was no brush between me or him, but he never held still. He's got all these other eyes with him that could spot me at any minute. And I had to let that bull walk away. And I remember getting home that night and telling my wife about it. I was like, honey, you're not going to believe like this bull today. Like I was right there. I was right there. And she's like, well, you did the right thing. And then, now the right thing will come along. And it did 2 weeks later, ended up in a different scenario and arrowed a really nice bull. And, I reflect on those decisions when I finally get my kill. I reflect on, man, it would have been so awesome to arrow a bull that big. But as you stated before, if anything went wrong, the sleep I would have lost would have killed me for a straight year. And that's not something if I have control over that scenario, I'm not going to let that happen. A few years ago, I remember I took a shot at an antelope that was on full alert at me, staring right at me. And by the time the arrow got there, he jumped, and I hit him and I killed him, but I did not hit him where I would have loved to have placed that arrow. And I remember I got pretty emotional about it. I got him, but it's like you said, when things like that happen, it sours the situation a little bit. Like I walked away that day feeling, of course I made the accomplishment, but it was just in the back of my head. Like if I had just taken a second and if I had just let down, and let him walk away, I probably would have been in another scenario sometime that day, and that was a tough thing to deal with. And scenarios like that is where you're really gonna learn a lot.
Man, that's it. Yeah, kudos to you, like doing it the right way, and it's part of the reason why you're seeing this next level success is your commitment to bow hunting and your commitment to getting the right shot and making the right decisions. Like, man, that's why it's coming together for you. That patience is a virtue, and patience does kill the buck or bull. Like waiting for the right angle, the right shot, placing the perfect angle in there, they die, and it doesn't always happen on the first stalk. And just like you stated, you are an absolute antelope killer. And you mentioned how many stalks you had this season before it finally came together, and me included. I didn't have quite that many on antelope, but I've definitely had that many in years past. Like some years are tougher than others. Those antelope are tough to kill, but I had to play the game multiple times and put myself in good places and put myself in range before it finally came together. And yeah, I think it's just
what a hunt, huh?
Oh man, those things are so fun, man. And they just shape us into good hunters too. They just don't put up with much movement, with any movement. And their eyesight is so keen. And so yeah, man, those things are a real challenge, and they sharpen our skill set, and that transposes into other animals. We're able to use that skill set on elk and make it happen with less opportunities because we get good at our craft and good at this bow hunting. But man, it's I know you've put a bunch of work in your shooting over the years, and I've been able to see you like improve throughout the years and be like one of the top shooters in the shop in there. And I also think it's due to, like you had mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, working on other people's bows. Your knowledge of bows and archery has furthered your shooting, like this understanding of it. Like you've gone deep down the rabbit hole of archery to learn everything you can learn about archery, everything you can learn about shooting and form, and then you're putting it into practice, like in these leagues and in the 3D shoots, and you're challenging yourself and you're shooting around other people. Like, man, that working on that archery skill set, the time to improve is the off season, and you really have to put a ton of effort into it. And it's something that we continue to strive and work towards, is to be the absolute best archer we can, because it's these small improvements. And a lot of times it's making these tough decisions. It's like having to let your ego go. Like, to be a good archer, you have to explore what you're doing wrong as well. You have to explore what's wrong with your form. And when you make a change to your form, you get a little bit worse before you get better. Like, you're shooting at a level, you make an adjustment to your form, and all of a sudden your shooting goes down a little bit. And you have to keep this belief that this is the right change for you, and this will equal you being a better archer in the end. So you make this change to your form, you get a little bit worse, and so you have to be okay with missing the X, or missing the 10 ring, or missing shots on animals, but just knowing like it's a better move for your form and for your archery overall. And then pretty soon you rise above the level you were at, and you become a better archer because of this change to your form. So like talk about your journey in archery and your improvement from it, and working on these bows and knowledge base, and how much that's helped you with being consistently successful.
Man, it has spoke huge volumes in my hunting, man. So years ago, my wife and I decided to turn a section of our house into a bow shop, and we did. And it started out just as a way to work on our own gear instead of driving the hill to a bow shop, and that we really didn't have the time for anymore. And it started out as that, and we bought the we bought our dream home last year, and my wife has kind of let me turn the whole basement into like a bow shop, gym, archery, man cave. It's so awesome. I'm actually talking from inside my bow shop right now because this is kind of where I'm always in my zone.
I can see the bows behind you. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's just I love it's been so enjoyable, man. It started out as us just kind of working on our own thing, and then some friends started asking for help, and I started diving into working on other people's equipment, and I was learning more doing that too, because I'm working on people's equipment where they have different draw weights, they need different arrow configurations, and that taught me a lot too. And began just, and we're kind of hoping to turn it into a small business at some point. So lately we've been helping a lot of local people with things that the archery shop just doesn't really have the time to do, and slowing down and really trying to figure out the perfect recipe of an arrow for your bow, and taking a look at your form and seeing maybe what we can switch up to give yourself a better edge. And it's been so fun, man. I remember over the summer I built a couple of dozen arrows for a buddy of mine, and I really worked hard on them and slowed down, and just built these arrows within super tight tolerance. And I remember when the next day he called me, and he was like, dude, I am shooting better than I ever have before. Like, I'm starting to understand, like, just creating these tighter tolerances, like I said, is just going to, it creates better groups. And that's just so rewarding to hear that. I loved hearing that so much. And, and then, I mean, like when you said rabbit hole, like that's all I do in this shop is just go down rabbit holes. It's nuts. And I'll constantly, I spend the whole year tinkering, and I change things, and I now that I have the ability to do this all in my basement, I have a shooting lane across the way here for doing all my tuning and stuff like that. And I'm just able to always keep in touch with my equipment. I mean, I'm working on my stuff during the season too. Like after antelope, if I'm able to harvest an antelope, I get right back in the shop and I recheck everything, because as you know, you can be super abusive on your bow during that time of year. You're crawling through sage and cactus country and beating the hell out of your gear. And it gives me so much more confidence that I'm able to come down here and I'm able to, just take everything apart, make sure everything's still looking good, recheck my paper tune, recheck my true broadhead flight, and make sure everything is good. And, instead of moving on to the next hunt where I'm like, oh boy, like I hope everything stayed intact while I was beating the hell out of my bow out in the prairie. And that has spoke huge volumes when it comes to hunting, man. And I've really been able to just understand the science behind all this equipment a lot better, and just knowing the way a bow works fundamentally will give you such an edge out in the field. And just being able to tinker, if you want to try a different arrow weight, if you want to try a different sight configuration, and peep sizes and housing sizes of your scope, and all these things, you can keep playing and playing until you get more comfortable. And I think when guys go into archery shops trying to do this, they the archery shop is busy. It's a retail location, and they don't necessarily have the time to slow down and just go over all these little things with you. And it can be not as a comfortable of an environment. There's people around, especially in summer when everyone's trying to get ready. The shops are busy. And when I have a buddy or a local person that comes here to my shop, they're comfortable. They can slow down. We can talk one-on-one, no distractions, and kind of just figure out what's going to work for them. And it's just been so rewarding to see some of these guys just walk out of here with more confidence in their shooting, because they're constantly saying, oh, thanks, man. And I'm like, hey, the satisfaction I get is knowing that if you draw back on an animal, your head is going to be in the right place, and you can place that arrow where it needs to be. That's what just brings me so much happiness. I love watching other guys like really start to figure their equipment out and learn how this all works, and become better archers, and it's been fun, man. I'm shooting better than I ever have in my life because of this, and it's so fun. I swear sometimes I'll be down here. My wife comes down in the middle of the night or something. She's like, "Are you still in here?" It's pretty funny.
Yeah, the love runs deep. Man, that's beautiful. It's like really fun to hear your journey into archery, and it starts by really fine tuning your equipment. And I know I've had buddies that are really good bow hunters that had one of my good buddies that I gave him last year's bow because his bow wasn't in yet. And so he used my last year's bow, and he shot that bow better than any bow he's ever shot. And he's like, man, what did you do to this thing? And it is just the fine tuning and the tinkering and the messing with it, being okay to be able to change things. And this knowledge, it just doesn't come right away. Like, this knowledge comes from like hanging out at the shop, which I know you did a lot. So it's working on your own setup, and it's asking guys that are better bow techs than you, like, hey, what have you done when you ran into this tuning issue? Like, all of a sudden my bow's tuning way outside, and then, you find out, oh, Matthews, I can move the top hats, or, other bows I can adjust you adjust it by yoke tuning and move the tune of it. And so then you like have that bit of knowledge. And then like working on other people's bows, you run into so many other issues and problems and different setups that you have to solve that it makes you a better overall bow tech for your own bow and for your own tuning. And so I was the same way, where I just hung into the shop, and I had some good friends that were better bow techs than me that I could turn to, and I could ask questions, and I just started working on my own bow. And then you can't be afraid to change. Like, you just have to change things constantly on a bow to try things out, to make sure, to see if this is going to work, or to see if that's going to work, or how does this affect my groups. And so really messing with them and spending the time just makes you so much better. It makes archery so it's not a black magic. Like, you understand how it all works and how it all works together. And then by the time season comes around, you've got just this deadly bow that's so fine-tuned, that's so forgiving, that shoots great groups. And that's a big part of our archery success, is just our knowledge in these bows and in our bow tuning and the time that we spend with them, man. And so, yeah, I'm sure your knowledge, like your archery is excelling exponentially, like just from working on all these different bows. So like, what's a good way, like you talk about turning this into a business? And you're right, shops do a great job. They just don't have the time to work on this fine-tuned detail. And, you may have 10 guys in the shop. There may only be 1 or 2 guys that are even interested in their bow being that finely tuned. I mean, everybody wants a good shooting weapon, but a lot of guys don't shoot good enough to notice the small little changes or differences that you're making. And so, you are catering to that 1 or 2 guys that want this finely tuned weapon. You're catering to these guys that want this archery knowledge, that then can lean upon you because you're a better bow tech than they are, to help them get this fine tuned bow, to help them, get this understanding of their weapon and how it all works together. And so, like, you're providing this great service to your buddies or to other guys. So like, you talk about starting this as a business, like what's a way guys can get a hold of you? Like, you're over the hill in Livingston, right? So in the Bozeman area, like, are you taking clients, or is this something you're just doing with your friends? And then how can guys get a hold of you? Your social media, or the shop you're going to create, or what's your vision for this for the future?
And for now, my vision is to keep helping friends and other people that reach out to me that are acquaintances and things like that. And I do want it to grow to where, they can spread the word and people feel comfortable to reach out to me. And being over the hill over in Livingston is, the benefit that guys locally find about it is, not having to drive over the hill to get help. And I want this to grow into something that local people know. And not just local people, anybody, but I want people to know that there's a safe haven to come to where they can, really, really learn more about their equipment and slow down and understand how, arrow flight, and, understand how to check a bow for flaws and things like that. I mean, this past summer, it got pretty busy, and it actually got to the point where like August 1st rolled around, and I told everybody, I was like, I can't take any more. I can't take any more stuff in here. Like, my own season's coming up here, and I gotta be dialed. And we're hoping to branch it into a small business. Give it some kind of a cool name. And I want to see a community. I want to see an archery community in my area. That we all, kind of know each other and can share each other's hunting stories. And if anybody feels like there's something about their bow they don't understand, I want them to feel like they can come here and we'll break it down little by little. And and they just the comfort level here is that's what I'm striving for. And when I tell people about the things I do in archery, I tell them what hasn't worked for me, what has worked for me, because so many times, like, guys are always asking, what's the best bow and broadhead combination out there? It's like, that's not the question to ask yourself. The question to ask yourself is, how can I make my bow as accurate as possible and shoot the most accurate broadhead possible? That's just right there. I think guys end up asking themselves the wrong questions all the time. And, what we're focusing on in this shop here is getting people to place broadheads on a target accurately, and really slowing down the tuning process to make sure that happens. And and I wanted to branch out. I'm super dedicated to my job, and so my time is super limited right now. But I do want this to branch out, and I want to just create a little community, and it's just so, like I said, the satisfaction behind these guys, like, leaving here and then having more confidence in their shooting has just been awesome. And and my wife is so supportive of all this. My wife's a bow hunter too. I mean, half the bows in here are hers.
A great bow hunter at that.
Yeah, she is. She's not only like my biggest support system, but she is a hell of a little bow hunter, a persistent one. And so having that support for this whole thing makes it a lot easier. A lot of my friends, their wives don't hunt, and they're supportive, but they can't dive into it together like they would like to. And that's what really makes this work, is my wife and I are both dedicated to this equally, and we both love it equally. And, we love spending time with other hunters and talking to other hunters and talking about these stories from their bow hunting. And, it's just, we love this life, man. We love it. We wouldn't have it any other way.
That's killer. How can guys get a hold of you if they're interested in having you working on their bows, or if they have some questions or just want to chat with you?
Yeah. So I'm not afraid to put my number out there, 406 600 3172. Shooting me a text is best when I'm, working and things like that. And then all my social media, it's just everything's under Cain Rinehart, on Facebook, Instagram. Anybody can reach me on there. And, I invite people to reach out and, get a hold of me. We can talk, we can just talk bows. And, I'm more than inviting for people to reach out. I want to help people. I want to help people walk into the woods and be able to focus on the hunt and not have to worry about whether or not their equipment's going to fail when it comes down to that crucial moment.
Yeah, well, dude, you're an absolute wealth of knowledge, and I know we've been acquaintances or like friends like the last couple of years. Like, I always visit with you every time I see you, but I'm gonna lean on you a little bit more. Like, I'd love to come over and visit you at your house and shoot a bit and just compare notes on different things. And also
Totally.
likewise is have you over to Ennis here and have you shoot a bit. And I think we can. I definitely know that. I think we can make each other better just by comparing notes and shooting a bit together. So, man, it's awesome, and I'm cheering you on with that shop and this idea for this business model, and I know it comes from a deep passion and love from you. It's like it's not something that you're looking to get rich off. And so, yeah, man, I just encourage anybody that has any questions to give you a shout or to reach out to you. And then my last question, dude, I'm eating up so much of your time. This has been such a great podcast. So this can't be the last. You have to come back on with me. But what do you think? I know you're a fan of these Matthews just like I am. What do you think of that new Phase 4?
Dude, it's awesome, man. I haven't bought it yet. I took my V3X over to the shop, and Zach McCarthy over there was, he was handing me off my V3X and the Phase 4 back and forth, shooting them next to each other. And the way they have quieted down that system, like my V3X is already so nice and keen, and I have just dialed that thing in, and it's so quiet and crisp. to shoot that phase 4 and to hear an even quieter bow it was mind blowing, mind blowing. I love Matthews. I love those guys. Like they are just that company. They stand behind some amazing people. They stand behind the same thing that we all do, and they create these amazing tunable bows, which is something that I look for in a bow more than anything is tunability. And that phase 4, man, it's gonna be a game changer, especially for guys that were shooting older models of, bows that are making a lot of noise, that guys were getting string jump issues. I mean, that bow is going to be a game changer. I haven't got it yet, man. I don't know if I'm ready to hang up the V3X. I love this bow. But yeah, it's super intriguing. What a company, man. Every year you're just like, man, what are they going to do next? Like, how are they going to up the game? And they always manage to do it.
I know.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm so impressed by him, man. I'm with you. I love that V3X, man. That thing was a shoot. I mean, all the last 5 years of Matthews, this is the last 3 years of Matthews, just been incredible. And like you say, every season they outdo themselves, And so, yeah, it's just, it's amazing. I've got that V3X. It's the quietest bow I've ever shot. Really forgiving, no hand shock. And yeah, somehow they've improved it with the Phase 4. And I kind of feel like these bows, each year they improve them, and the improvement's like 1% improvement, 1 to 3% improvement in performance, forgiveness, shootability, everything. And so like where you really notice the difference is like 3 years down the line or 5 years down the line, like you're talking, where you see this 10% improvement in the bow and its function. It really makes you a better archer. And so yeah, I don't think that everybody has to step up every year and buy a new bow. I know you're such a fan of bows that you usually end up getting a new one every year, is why I wanted to ask you. And just like I thought, you've already shot the Phase 4. I haven't set mine up. I'm in the middle of the move, and all my stuff is in boxes in the garage, and it's just killing me. Mine showed up, and so I may have to dig through those boxes, but, I'm not too far away from getting in that house and getting things set up. But just so stoked how they were able to quiet it down even more, and then that hand shock out of that thing is going to be amazing. And so, yeah, it's just such a great company and such great bows, so I had to ask your opinion on it.
Yeah, it's an awesome platform, man, and yeah, and I probably end up getting my hands on it here. It's just
I know you will.
Oh, dude, I'm just crazy about it, man. I remember when they released the V3X and this whole new bridge lock technology. I was like so excited to get home and try it out, and I'm like, well, I can hold on to this. It's like whatever. They can't come out with that much more again this year. God, they get me every time. They get me every year.
Well, Cain, man, I've eaten up a bunch of your time, but dude, I just really appreciate you coming on the podcast and chatting with me. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, I said it before, but yeah, you got to come on at least once a year and share your knowledge to the guys out there. And yeah, I just really appreciate you and what you're doing for bow hunting, and you're the man.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brian. I'm seriously, buddy, this was such an honor, and congratulations, man, on all your success over the years, especially this year, man. I follow your content so closely. Like we talked about in this podcast, is learning from those who have succeeded more than me and have done this more than me, man. I love your content. I love Eastman's Elevated it's such a good platform for people to really rely on and listen to things, and hear from others who just love this sport like we do.
Man, it's so kind. Yeah, thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. Keep in touch and reach out if you need anything from me.
Yeah, appreciate it, Brian. Thank you so much.
Okay, talk soon.
Yep, take care.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. Fun conversation with Cain. Man, that guy's a stud in the mountains, and he's just willed himself into being consistently successful just through his hard work, discipline, dedication, and you can definitely hear that come out in the podcast. So thanks a bunch for him coming on the podcast. Definitely want to have him on again. He's a great guest. So that went really well. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks so much for the support. Thanks to our sponsors for today's show, Zamberlan, just unparalleled boots and shoes. So pumped on that company. So check them out if you're in the market for new shoes. That shoe that I really like is the Salute. So you can check that out. And also want to thank Cryptek, just the best technical mountaineering gear system that I've ever had put together. Great for early season to late season. So you can check them out at cryptek.com. check out Black Ovis internet retail store. Just great offerings, great name brands, including their own. You can get everything you need for your hunt. And Camo Fire. Great deals on their app. 80 new hunting deals every 24 hours, so you can check those guys out as well. Man, just working away here. I'm 7 days a week working these long hours, long weeks here, trying to get my house done and get in it. I'm getting so close, man. That house is coming out so nice. So apologize if you guys are getting tired of hearing about my house on the podcast. It seems like I open up about every conversation with it, or I guess people just follow me and ask about it, and then I let them know how it's going. But yeah, it's way nicer than I deserve. It's just a beautiful home. It's like the best home I could build, and I work on all these other houses for so many years, and so I figure out like what I really like. And so when I'm doing a floor, I'm trying to do the coolest floor that I've ever put in, best colors, best tie to the house. When I'm doing a ceiling, when I'm doing counters, when I'm doing, so I am just going all out on this house. And man, it's one of the nicest houses I've ever built, and I'm gonna get to live in it here in probably about 2-3 weeks time. I'll still need to get some of the shower glass doors are like 8 weeks out or something, so it'll be a while. I'll be showering with curtains, but I am gonna be in that house, I believe, in January here. So got the counters poured yesterday, doing some concrete counters. I did post one picture up on my social media on Brian_Barney the other day, and I'll post some more and do some walkthroughs. It is the coolest house. When I get done with it, man, it's going to be absolutely awesome. So just working hard to get me and my family in there, working these long weeks, and definitely having this adventurous hunting season that's helping me get through. And then I just can't wait to get my life back. It's just been my sole focus, not my sole focus. I mean, I guess, I've been spending time with family, and I've been, I definitely had a great hunting season, but, it was just under stress the whole hunting season, and I didn't have the time that I normally have, and then I always had the pressure of this home and the other jobs I'm contracting in the backdrop, and, I've given myself a little bit of grace on my workouts, and I was keeping running there for quite a while. Now it's just every waking moment on that house until I'm done. So I'm just so ready to have my life back and get training full time again, and just get some more balance in my life. My life's got out of balance, which I work in 100-hour weeks. It's just tough to do anything else. So it's just I'm pushing hard towards the finish line, but I'm holding up, and I'm doing good, and really excited to get in this house, and then just get back to my normal life where I just can really put my focus on Western hunting. So super pumped to get back to that, and and put more effort into these other items. I mean, not that I haven't been working hard on the podcast, but just put more effort in for you guys, and more effort in the hunting industry, more effort in my hunts, and also, personal happiness. And I've kept myself up, this whole time working on the house, but it doesn't take long. 100-hour weeks start to wear on me, and so just trying not to break my brain, trying to get into this house, which I'm going to do. God, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel right now. So just going to keep pushing hard towards that finish, and get myself in that place, and it'll be amazing. Like I say, better than a carpenter deserves for sure, but I'm so pumped on this place. So thanks to you guys for all the support and downloading the podcast. We're trying to hit some numbers this month. I mean, we just have we've built a great community, and so we're trying to hit some numbers this month. So if you guys get a chance, download any episodes that you haven't downloaded. Push this podcast, social media, share it with your friends. Really, it's word of mouth that's grown this podcast. So I'm trying to have a good December here. I will get you guys an extra solo episode, and we'll try to hit our marks. I'm not sure if I can make it this month or not to hit those numbers, but we've had a really good year, and we've continued to grow. So I've got nothing to feel bad about. It's just like trying to hit this this number or whatever. And really it doesn't matter. It's like I have you guys that listen to the podcast each and every week, and we've built a good following, and we get decent numbers, and we do good for these advertisers, that build great gear. We've partnered with great companies, and so, man, I got nothing to complain about. But if you guys get a chance, share it with your buddies, download any episodes you're behind on, try to help me get to that magical, I think we're like trying to get 1 million downloads for the year, 1 million plays for the year, which that's all our podcast entire library, which there's 360 some episodes on there. So yeah, just trying to hit my mark. We're really close. So if you guys get a chance, download some extra episodes for me. But thanks so much for the support, you guys. I really appreciate you listening in to the podcast, really finding our niche and our voice through the podcast and what you guys want to hear. And really, it's just the stuff that I want to hear. Like, I'm a fan of Western hunting and a fan of these guys I have on the podcast. And I've always treated the podcast that way, is that I am you guys. And so what I think is interesting and what I like is also what's going to resonate with you. So I just want to continue to follow that path and that voice of the podcast, because I believe that's what connects me to you guys. So I'm gonna get back to this Western hunting thing full time, not part time. So you better watch out for 2023. I'm gonna be going so hard in training and in hunts and in time in the mountains, and man, I just can't wait. So I'm gonna get me and my family into this house, which is amazing, and get my life back. So thanks you guys for following along and all the support. I really appreciate you guys. And with that, I'll check in with you next week.